Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. Betty, we find ourselves at St. Peter's Church, a 900-year-old church that's located way up on the top of the hill next to the Sacred Heart Church in Paris.
Yeah, this is a great area to be in. And it's so amazing that they would have two wonderful churches on the right, almost next to each other.
Yeah, very close to one another. And here, of course, we see the statue of St. Peter. This same statue, or one exactly like it, of course, is in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. And people like to go by and touch his foot. And you can see there, it really got polished by people's fingers.
Just their hands going. Now, it's supposed to be, I think, that if you touch his foot and, that you're going to get your wish, your prayer will be answered. Isn't that
I don't know. I never heard that before.
Or did you just want to do it to polish his foot?
I guess
mean, it has to be a reason. So
I think people just do. Some people like to touch statues.
Or maybe just pay a little homage to him for the. I would make
St. Peter.
I think it's a good idea to make a wish anyway, or make a prayer for something.
It's always a good idea to make a prayer,
waste,
whether you've got somebody's foot to touch or not.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, these beautiful, beautiful stained glass windows that are in here must have been added, later because they look so futuristic or so modern. As does the cloth that covers the altar here. It's very plain inside, but it's just very, very beautiful. So we made a little visit, and that's right around the corner from where you see here, where all the artists are up here. And this, Betty, I wanted to buy that.
I love that. Why didn't you buy that picture?
Because there was no price on it.
You could have asked.
Yeah, no, when I saw that he had Visa and MasterCard there, it scared me off a little bit.
But you can put charges for like $4 on a Visa card, although I'm sure that wasn't $4.
I'm sure it would have been more like 400 or more. I'm quite sure because they were exquisite. But so are the other paintings that you see here too. And a lot of our friends that traveled with us were purchasing some of these. They're really, really quite nice. Nice to have as a souvenir.
Yeah, that was my roommate, and there's Irma Dalton, and she travels with me everywhere.
Good. Oh, that's great. Well, has a nice souvenir now from the city of Paris. And of course you can see we got there fairly early in the morning. I think it was around 10 o'clock when we were there, and that is early for some Parisians, I believe, because we saw a lot of the artists. They were still bringing their easels and their little chairs, and they were still setting up, their wares, and it's just so interesting. I think that everybody that visits Paris really wants to come up here and visit this because it's a very special place.
Well, you know what? We see lots of churches and do lots of holy things, and it's kind of fun to have a little difference, And I look forward to this here. I just think, I wish there'd been more artists and more activity, but like you say, it was early. But this is Paris.
Oh, right.
Really, it is Paris.
And it's a lot of fun. Now, these guys, as soon as you wander upon the scene, they're there with their scissors and the little piece of paper, and they're doing silhouettes. And there's no guarantee that you're going to buy one of these. However, the guys are pretty good salesmen. And so this guy was cutting out one. I was having coffee, and the guy would cut the thing out, and that wasn't the thing.
That's Cod.
Yeah. And so anyway, I think he wanted something like $10 or something.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Just
ridiculous.
I told the guy, I said, look, I've only got about 2 or 3 euros in my pocket. And that's what I got for tourism.
That's you. It wasn't worth that much.
No, it was okay. I mean, and the guy says, what are you talking about? He says, that's not even enough for a cup of coffee. I said, there it is. Take it or leave it. So he grudgingly, took it.
They'll take anything, actually. Now, see, Father Pat, he's just looking disdainfully at his,
Yeah.
Hey, Father,
I'm
it
not
looks
going to
like
buy
you.
that. But then all of us said, come on, Monsignor, buy that. You need to have a little souvenir. But don't pay 10 euros for it, or 9 euros, or whatever it was. I can't remember right now, but it seemed everybody got on the act on this one, I'll tell you, because these guys were all over.
Talking to Shirley here.
Yeah.
He's really giving her a pitch.
A real sales pitch.
Yeah, a real sales
Well, you think, it goes through your mind, I don't want that. What am I going to do with that? And then you think, well, now, wait a minute. It's kind of a little personalized souvenir, so maybe I will get it.
Sure, and it's easy to pack.
Sure.
That doesn't take up any room in your suitcase.
But the main thing is to bargain with them.
Yeah. Well, people have to realize that. That's part of the fun of travel.
Sure.
Is to bargain. And if you don't bargain, they almost feel insulted,
Well, see, you got in there to help her bargain a little bit, right?
Because I said, don't pay that much. That's too much.
You have the euros sitting out there, so.
And they yell at me then.
Yeah, they do.
Get
right?
out,
That's
get
it.
out, get out, you know.
There's my
another
painting
one.
again.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
isn't it beautiful? It's just that is
Beautiful,
gorgeous.
They look like masterpieces.
They do.
Maybe they are copies of a masterpiece.
That could
huh?
very well be. I know it's not paint by numbers, that's for sure.
No.
So, but they're beautiful. They were really great. There was some very fine art there, as well as some kind of everyday art, I guess I would say, because so many people want to go study art, and now there he is.
Yeah.
Now he's happy.
Any resemblance
he bought
to me
it.
in the picture
Yeah.
is coincidental.
Had to get a shot of this guy. This guy was wandering around, kind of longish hair, a cape, and
There
also
he is.
kilts.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe he's visiting from Scotland. I don't know.
think he was an attention getter, really. But we sat there and had a cup of coffee. I had mine courtesy of Marv, which was very nice, and it was fun. There's
it's
a
great
good
fun.
doctor, and there's my dear friend Dora. And all these people have traveled with me before, and it is so fun. It's kind of like going with a family.
Right, exactly. And the thing was, though, it was time. We'd spent quite a bit of time here now, so it was time for us to get on, because we have so much more of Paris to see. I mean, there is just so much more. We're going to head down now. We're going to walk down the hill. Well, we're not going to walk it. We're going to take that little tram or funicular down there. But before
you know, when we walk by this mime, and it is incredible. You see him
Scared
in San
you, huh?
Francisco, but he was immobile. I mean, absolutely.
you see a lot of those now all over Europe,
Well,
and
I knew we
and
see
some of
them
them are very clever.
They are. I see him in
Very
San Francisco
clever.
all the time.
Yeah.
But here, I never expected to find one there.
Oh well, it seems like everywhere we go, you'll find people out there. It's a good way to make money. I saw a lot of them,
Oh, yeah.
of course, in the art places or around all of the art places when we were in Italy as well. But from here, you can get a very, very nice view of the city of Paris. You can also get a better view, I think, from atop the Eiffel Tower, which we'll go a little bit later on. But anyway, we're going to head on down the street now. And the street that we have to head down is also noted for its red light district. And if you'll notice on the right-hand side, you'll see some of the signs advertising some of the places that are here. And we're going to get very close also to the Moulin Rouge, which is just down the street from here, of course, which is very, very famous. And most people know about that. But this is a little infamous type of area that we see on the streets of Paris right here. So anyway, we're going to trudge on down there. Oh, there it is right there. There's the Moulin Rouge. You can see the windmill right there. And so we got just a real quick shot of that. But we're going to listen to our guide now as he explains a little bit more about some of the things that we're going to see here in the city of Paris.
So now we enter the tragic tunnel, and if you count 13 white pillars in the middle, that's the one that the car hit of Diana. Now, right now, look.
Le 13e pilier, lui,
Oui,
il est scanté.
voilà.
On le voit, il est scanté.
Count 13, you'll get it here. Now, this one on the left. Yeah.
Well, of course, now that is also a tourist attraction in the city of Paris too, and there's the Grand Lady herself. Look at there off in the distance, isn't it beautiful,
Yes,
Betty?
it is.
The Eiffel Tower. I mean, you just everywhere you go around the city, it's there. It just stands,
Visible.
including that's you can see underneath, but it's off in the distance that modern tower, which our guide just despised. He didn't
I
like
hated
that at all.
But you know
Oof.
what? I think sometimes the Eiffel Tower is, well, I know for me, it's much more dramatic as you stand and look at it than when you're in it. Because
Mm-hmm. Right.
the only thing good when you're in it is the view that.
Oh, yeah.
that-
Well, it was inaugurated on the 31st of March in the year 1889, and it was sort of the keystone to the Universal Exhibition that they had. And it was celebrating, it was really built for the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution. And in the first year, it had 2 million visitors that visited it. And they have around 6 million a year today that go through it. And it really is a real crowd pleaser, but it was not very well accepted by there were 300 people that had signed a petition, including Émile Zola and some other very famous Parisians, when Gustave Eiffel had presented his drawings for this to the city.
Yeah.
And they didn't like it at all. But after the exhibition opened, and it was well received, of course, by millions of people that were coming through every year, That sort of just faded away.
Yeah, they go with the crowd.
Yeah, well, you have to,
If it's a majority, then you say, well, why fight it? Let's say, oh, it's beautiful. It was wonderful. And I think it's important, too, that, I mean, until the Chrysler Building was built, that was the largest monument, the highest monument
in the world.
In the world, yeah.
You're right, until 1930 when they opened up the Chrysler Building in New York City. But it's just a very, very impressive piece of, I want to say art, because that's sort of what it you would say now, you know.
Looks to me like an erector set, like a kid would get those little pieces and put them all together and make an Eiffel Tower, a miniature. They probably do have that.
Of course, I would think so,
huh?
yeah. Anyway, it took 2.5 million rivets to put it together. There were 300 steel workers, and it took 2 years between 1887 and 1889 to construct it. And you know, it sways in the wind a little bit, and it will also vary. The height, actually, it says varies because of the temperature. I don't know about that, but there are 15,000 pieces of iron, and that excludes the rivets that are...
That's a riveting statement that you just made.
Guess how many tons of paint it takes to paint the Eiffel Tower?
Tons
of paint. Not
idea.
Gallons, but tons.
I don't even know how they could measure it in tons.
40 tons of paint.
And how often do they paint?
I guess whenever it needs it.
Well, we know, like the bridges, how often they have to keep. That's exposed to the elements
all the time.
Huh?
That's true. And there are 1,710 steps from the bottom to the top.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Oh, yeah, no,
I wasn't with you all the time. Did you climb all those steps?
No.
You didn't?
No way. No, I just went to the second. I observation
I thought maybe you would climb up there.
No, thank you very much.
Oh.
I have a little acrophobia, you know. Just getting me this high up there is that's it. That's high enough.
I don't
think
you could contribute that to acrophobia. I think that you could contribute that to chicken. Right.
Probably right.
Too much.
But you know, even after it was as famous as it was, they almost tore it down in 1909, but it was saved because they used the top of it for an antenna for the telegraph. And then in 1918, French radio came on the air, so they put the radio antennas up there. And then in 1957, French television started putting their antennas up there. So they used it because look how tall it is. I mean, you can see all over Paris. So, and there aren't any mountains around. So this makes the greatest place to have your television transmitting antenna. And there you can see the Arc de Triomphe, which we saw before.
It has to be one of the most dramatic places to get a true view of Paris.
It is.
So it's worth the price of admission.
Yeah, but now if you want to spend more money,
no, thank you.
There is a very fancy, extremely expensive restaurant that is located up there. There's also some other less expensive restaurants where you can get something to eat, but there is a very, very expensive one, and you have to have reservations to go
and dress
to that
accordingly.
restaurant. Oh, yeah, it's really quite nice. So, and Rosa Maria on our staff, on one of her trips to France, she said that she ate in one of those restaurants, and it was very, very nice. So I ate in one of the restaurants, too. I had a cup of hot chocolate. But you walk up and say, what do you want, bub? Cup of hot chocolate, please.
Well, that's what I've done. But I don't want, if you do it one time, that's all you need to do, you know.
But, you know, it really is a fascinating thing to see. And at night, oh, my golly, at night it is lit up, and then there is, on the top, there is sort of a light that shoots up into the sky. There's that horrible building.
Yeah, it is ugly, isn't
it?
It just sticks up like a sore thumb.
Well, and especially when you look and you see all this gorgeous architecture all beneath the Eiffel Tower and all over through the city of Paris, and then that thing sticks up there.
One thing about the city of Paris is so well laid out, and whoever did the planning of it really knew what they were doing, and they've maintained the old look of it with that, like we do here in the United States. We tear things down, the beautiful old things, and then erect something supposedly modern.
Yeah.
But you don't see that in Paris.
No, there is a new part of Paris. In fact, our hotel was located in a newer part of Paris where everything, of course, is brand new. But that was out a ways from the old part of the city of Paris. The thing is, though, that on the subways you can get around so fast, so it doesn't really matter where you are, in the city. And I think one of the shots we may have had already, I'm not quite sure, and you can see a little bit of a newer city that is also a little bit closer to the Eiffel Tower. But Paris, of course, like every other major city in the world, has to grow and has to have room for its expanding population. And of course, it goes out a little further, a little further, a little further. These elevators that we're on right now go at a fairly decent clip. However, if you do go early enough, because there are lines to go into the elevators, and you might have to wait a while. On this particular trip, some of our people did have to wait a little while because there were a lot of people that wanted to go up. And usually they don't open up all 4 elevators at one time. Usually 2 of them are open, I think, at any one time. So, so if you get there a little bit early, make sure that you've got enough time so that you can enjoy your time as you go up into the Eiffel Tower, which you want to, and of course you want to take your camera because some of the views that we saw are just really magnificent. But we're going across town now, and we're going to visit a beautiful, beautiful place, Notre Dame.
It was built 800 years ago, and it took 100 years to build. It was built in Gothic style, which means that all the arches are pointed. If you look above the windows, it's all arches like this. And that movement of arches gives the church a thrust upwards. It seems like the church stretches towards God, and yet like hands in prayer, like this. So all the elements are good to explain, to teach, to show the life of Christ and Virgin Mary. Even if it's stained glass inside, or limestone outside, or marble outside. For example, the central door that you see there represents the universal judgment, the last judgment, whereas Christ sitting and the cross is brought to him on the right. But under the feet of Christ, we see an angel and a demon. Behind the demon, those people are condemned to go to hell, and behind the angel, they looking towards Christ, they are blessed to go to heaven. That's the last universal judgment of Christ. Good, bad, hell, heaven. And there is a balance, by the way. The balance turned toward the angel of hope. The 12 apostles stand on both sides of the door, and then Christ on the middle column. Look at the door on the right. Of course, the child is presented by its mother. And then all the carving under below, 13th and 14th century, represent nativity, visitation, annunciation, presentation in the temple, presentation to the shepherds, etc. Now the door on the left is pretty one because it represents the Dormition or the accession of Virgin Mary. You can see her lying on a coffin. But look at the door on the very left. You see 4 statues on the right, and then you see 4 statues on the left. The second from the right stands and he holds his head in his hands. And this is a very famous Saint Denis. We were talking about him this morning because he wanted to convert the population to Christianity, and the Romans didn't let him do so. So he lost his head, but he managed to walk with it 3 miles. Therefore, the hill was called the Mount of the Martyr. But in many churches, he appears with his head in his hand.
We should mention that about St. Denis, or St. Denis as he pronounced it. That was the abbey that they built there, and they built that on top of what was the Roman, I was going to say cathedral, that's not the best, the Roman temple to Jupiter. So naturally, the Romans were not too pleased with St. Denis trying to convert everybody to Christianity and then cut his head off.
But the amazing thing is, to me, he walked around with his head in his hands for a while.
Yeah, before he dropped over.
Yeah.
Well, at least that's what the legend goes,
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Anyway, we were very delighted that we were able to have a private mass at this right in the center of the main altar of Notre Dame, and Monsignor celebrated the Mass for us here, and it was just
Quite a privilege
Oh,
to
really?
be given that honor of having it right in the
Excellent.
main altar.
That was really something. I'd been there before on a Sunday and have gone to a Mass. Of course, this church will hold a little over 6,000 people, and there are people, of course, going around all the time, as you can sort of see in the background, and you'll see flash pictures, going off all the time.
Organ, look at
And,
that.
yeah, beautiful, isn't it? And of course,
Yes.
those two beautiful rose windows, Betty. Oh my
World
golly.
famous, world famous. The
They
rose
they are
window.
they are just plus the other windows that you see
Yeah,
too. But after the French Revolution, there was a time when the church was literally destroyed on the inside, and they took out all these windows and just put plain glass in there. It was just, the church has had such a history, such a long history. And
That is just awesome, just so awesome. It's a good thing to sit there and meditate.
oh, yes, you can very easily. And of course, the beautiful statuary that we see here too of the Blessed Virgin, which of course the church is named after. And there are a lot of statues around the church, as we will see.
It takes energy, takes dedication, and also on our part, it takes a great desire. Just think of the things that we desire in life and what we will do to gain those things which we desire. Do we have in our own hearts the same desire for Christ Jesus and his ways? Before he was given up to death, a death he freely accepted, he took bread and gave you thanks. He broke the bread, gave it to his disciples, and said, "Take this, all of you, and eat it. This is my body, which will be given up for you."
And we had the wonderful privilege of all of us attending the Mass here, as you can see, as Monsignor celebrated. Absolutely wonderful experience to have our own private Mass here. Napoleon also was crowned emperor here, and I have a little thing that Sir Walter Scott had written in his Life of Napoleon Bonaparte. He says, on the 2nd of December, the ceremony of the coronation took place in the ancient Cathedral of Notre Dame, with the addition of every ceremony which could be devised to add to its solemnity. The emperor took his coronation oath, as usual on such occasions, with his hands up on the scripture, and in the form in which it was repeated to him by the Pope. Now, the Pope was there. But not even from the head of the Catholic Church would Bonaparte consent to receive as a boon the golden symbol of sovereignty, which he owed solely to his own unparalleled train of military and civil success. The crown having been blessed by the Pope, Napoleon took it from the altar, and with his own hands he placed it on his brow. He then put it on the head of his empress. The Te Deum was sung. The heralds proclaimed that the thrice glorious and thrice august Napoleon, Emperor of the French, was crowned and installed. How about that, huh? That
He
was
sure
from Sir
thought a
Walter
lot
Scott.
of himself, didn't he?
Oh, he did. Well, and we saw that all over Paris.
Yes.
We saw that he always considered himself as an emperor, and he had in his mind the emperors, of course, of Rome. And so that was quite something to
Well, he
crown
did.
himself.
Yeah, but he did a lot. But the thing that I kind of like about this church too was when Paris was liberated during World War II, General de Gaulle rushed to the cathedral to pray in thanksgiving. So, you're happy to see that he was knowledgeable about who protected him,
Right.
and Paris.
Right.
Yeah.
There was in 1871, the cathedral was set on fire during the period of what they call the Commune. And that's when, Betty, I think they took the statues out, and because they thought the statues had represented all of the kings, but they didn't. They were representing the state. Saints, rather. And so it was really quite something. In 1909, the beatification of Joan of Arc was held in Notre Dame. And the period of restoration was kind of contributed in a way to when Victor Hugo had written his book about which we call the Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? And there was a gentleman that really took heart with this. His name was Eugene Emmanuel Vollet-le-Duc. and he was a young Parisian, and he was the one that was the crusader for restoring and preserving the wonders of elder Paris, and in particular Notre Dame, and that would become the centerpiece of his life's work. So he was appointed to head a new commission that was dedicated to the preservation of historical monuments, and his knowledge of medieval building techniques allowed for the reconstruction as true as possible to its original intentions.
Isn't
So
that
he
something?
was the one that I think there should be a statue,
To him.
put up for him, because if it wasn't for him, none of this would have been restored in the actual way that it looked as it was being built during the time. How long did it take to build, Betty? When didn't originally it went through 3 different types of constructions?
Yeah,
I
because it
think.
was torn down and then raised again. And there's just so much, and you almost have to do a whole lot of research before you go. And even when you do that, and then you visualize these things in person, it doesn't always remain there with you, and you're just awestruck by
Right.
the multitude of the statues, the artistry of the sculptors in producing it. And I know when we saw the statue of the Dormition of the Blessed Mother, having been to Israel, to the Holy Land, and we did see the same Blessed Mother laying out in the Church of Dormition.
That's exactly
so
right.
it kind of rings a bell, the repetition of the things that go on within in our visits to different
Right.
places.
And here I noticed, I was sitting there was Adam and Eve. And I was really surprised to see. I didn't notice that before. No one had said anything about it. And then all of a sudden, as I was taking these pictures, I thought, oh my God, I wonder who that is. It's got to be Adam. He's got a fig leaf on. And Eve the same way. Now, there were kids around there that had little signs in English, and they were saying they were from the East Europe. They couldn't get back, and this, that, and the other. It was a rip-off deal. And security finally chased them away, and we were told about it. And these are children here, of course, that have come from different parts of France that will, of course, tour Notre Dame here. And it's a great idea that they've got these hats on. The kids won't get lost that way, I don't think,
Oh, all you have to do, remember we used to wear shirts or jackets.
Yeah.
And you could always say, oh, there they are,
So we don't get lost.
Yeah.
Anyway, a lot of people say, well, how come all of the statues? Well, one of the reasons for the statues, you have to realize that during the time when this church was built, people didn't read or write. And so the pictures were right there. The pictures were done. The history was all done, of course, as you can see, through the statuary to tell all about Christianity. And so that was very, very important. Betty, that's all the time we have, my
my.
golly. Hey, we'll see you next time on the Adventures Travel Club television show. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.